The first 60 seconds after you open your eyes in the morning decide how stiff you're going to feel for the next 2 hours. Not your age, not your mattress, not just getting older. Something specific happens inside your joints and your connective tissue while you sleep, and it has a name and it has a fix, and by the end of this video, you'll be able to do that fix before your feet even touch the floor. It takes about 90 seconds. It works with your body instead of fighting it, and once you understand why it works, you'll never look at morning stiffness the same way again. Let's get into what's actually happening while you're asleep, because this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. What's actually happening while you sleep? You've probably heard that your joints are rusty in the morning, like an old hinge. That's a nice image, but it's not quite right. Here's what's really going on. Deep inside your connective tissue, there's a substance called fascia. Think of it as the wrapping paper around every muscle, tendon, and joint in your body, connecting your foot all the way up to your jaw in continuous sheets. Fascia isn't solid and it isn't liquid. It behaves like a gel, and here's the part almost nobody tells you. That gel changes thickness depending on whether you're moving. Scientists who study connective tissue call this property thixotropy. When you're still for a long stretch, like the 7 or 8 hours you spend sleeping, the fluid inside your fascia thickens. It literally becomes more gel-like, more resistant, less slippery. When you start moving again, friction and warmth turn it fluid again, the same way stirring honey makes it easier to pour. That gel-like state after a long night of stillness is a huge piece of why you feel tight and resistant the moment you sit up. Now layer in your joints themselves. The cartilage that cushions your knees, hips, and spine has no direct blood supply of its own. It survives by soaking up nutrients from the fluid around it, called synovial fluid, but that fluid only circulates properly when the joint is compressed and released through movement. Physical therapists call this process imbibition, which is really just the joint acting like a sponge. Squeeze it and old fluid moves out. Release it and fresh, nutrient-rich fluid moves back in. All night long while you're lying still, that pumping action basically stops. The fluid around your joints sits stagnant and cartilage starts the day slightly undernourished and under-lubricated. And there's a third piece, one that's especially well documented in people with joint conditions like arthritis, but plays some role for almost everyone as the years add up. Your body's main anti-inflammatory hormone, cortisol, follows a daily rhythm, and it's at its lowest point right before you wake up. Inflammation in your joints, even the low-grade, quiet kind that most people carry without ever being formally diagnosed with anything, is temporarily less controlled during those early morning hours. That's part of why stiffness is often worse first thing and tends to ease up as the day goes on and your cortisol rises. Put those three things together: thickened fascia, stagnant joint fluid, a temporary dip in your body's natural anti-inflammatory control. None of that is damage. None of it means your joints are wearing out. It's a completely normal, reversible state that your body falls into every single night, and it reverses the moment you give it the right kind of movement in the right order before you stand up and put your full body weight through joints that haven't been prepared for it yet. That last part matters more than people realize. Most of us do the opposite. The alarm goes off, we throw the covers back, and we're upright within 10 seconds, asking stiff, fluid-starved joints to take on our full weight cold. That's exactly backwards. So let's fix the order. The 90-second wake-up sequence. Stay lying on your back for this first part. Don't reach for your phone yet, and don't swing your legs out of bed. You're going to work from your feet upwards because your fascia is organized in long connected chains running up the body, and because getting fluid moving in your lower legs first helps blood return toward your heart before you ask your heart to work against gravity by standing. Start at your ankles. Point your toes away from you like you're pressing on a gas pedal, hold that for a couple of seconds, then pull your toes back towards your shins as far as feels comfortable. Go back and forth slowly, maybe 10 times on each foot. You're not stretching here, you're pumping. Every flex and point squeezes the muscles around your ankle veins and pushes fluid that pooled overnight back into circulation. If you want to add something, draw a slow circle with each foot, 5 times in one direction and 5 in the other. You're lubricating the ankle joint itself, not just moving muscle. Move up to your knees next. Slide one heel up toward your hip along the mattress, bending the knee, then slide it back down straight. Do this slowly, maybe 8 times per leg. This is the imbibition process in action, that sponge-like compression and release we talked about, happening right in the joint that tends to complain the loudest in the morning. Now your hips. Bring one knee up toward your chest, wrap your hands around your shin or the back of your thigh, and gently draw it in without yanking. Hold for only 2 or 3 seconds, then switch sides. Alternate a few times per leg. Because your hip flexors and lower back fascia are part of the same connected chain running from your feet, this step often releases tightness in your lower back that you didn't even trace back to your hips. Then bring both knees up together, feet flat on the mattress, and let them fall gently to one side while your shoulders stay flat. Then bring them back to center and let them fall to the other side. This is a slow, controlled spinal rotation, and it's doing for your spine what the ankle pumps did for your lower legs, encouraging fluid movement through the discs and facet joints of your lower back, which have gone hours without any load and release cycle. Finish at the top. Roll your shoulders in slow circles, a few forward and a few back, while you're still lying down or just as you sit up on the edge of the bed. Gently turn your head to look over one shoulder, then the other, without forcing it. Your neck holds a surprising amount of overnight fascial thickening because it barely moves for hours while your head rests on a pillow. That's the whole sequence, feet to neck, and it genuinely takes under 2 minutes. Only after finishing it should you sit up on the edge of the bed, pause for a breath or two, and then stand. You've just taken a joint system that woke up gelled, stagnant, and under-lubricated, and you've turned it fluid, pumped, and ready to take weight before it ever had to. One more piece worth mentioning here, because it surprises every time. Mild dehydration builds up overnight simply from hours without drinking anything, and synovial fluid, like most fluid in your body, gets slightly thicker when you're dehydrated. A glass of water sitting on your nightstand, sipped right after you finish the sequence above, isn't a magic cure on its own, but it's a small, real lever working in the same direction as everything else you just did.
The most common mistake that's making your stiffness worse. Here's where most well-meaning advice actually backfires, and it's worth slowing down on this part. The most common mistake is reaching for a big static stretch, like folding forward to touch your toes or pulling your knee into a deep hold in the first few minutes after waking, before any of the pumping movement above has happened. Cold fascia, in that thickened gel-like state, doesn't respond to a deep hold the way warmed-up tissue does later in the day. Instead of lengthening smoothly, it resists, and pulling against that resistance is how people tweak a hamstring or irritate a lower back first thing in the morning, then spend the rest of the day blaming their age instead of their timing. The fix isn't to stretch harder. It's to pump first with the small, repeated movements you just learned, warm the tissue with a few minutes of gentle motion, and save any longer static stretch for after that, ideally later in the day when your fascia is already fluid. The second version of this mistake is standing up too fast, which we already touched on, but it deserves repeating because it's the single most common habit in this whole topic. Swinging your legs out and standing within a few seconds of waking asks stiff, fluid-starved joints to absorb your full body weight instantly with zero preparation. Give the sequence its 90 seconds first. Your knees and hips will thank you by lunchtime. How this gets better over the next few weeks. You don't need to overhaul your mornings overnight, and honestly, trying to do too much too fast is how most new habits die within a week. Here's a realistic path. For the first week, your only job is the 90-second sequence itself, done consistently every single morning while still lying down before you stand. Consistency here matters far more than intensity. You're teaching your body a new default order of operations, and that takes repetition more than effort. By the second and third week, once the sequence feels automatic, you can add a short standing component once you're up. A minute of marching in place, lifting your knees comfortably high, followed by a few slow bodyweight squats to a chair and back up, keeps that same pumping principle going now that you're vertical and gives your hips and knees a second round of fluid exchange under light load. By week 4, start paying attention to the other end of the cycle, the evening before. Fascia that starts the night already a little tight and dehydrated has further to travel back to fluid the next morning. A few minutes of gentle movement before bed, even just repeating the ankle and knee portion of the morning sequence, along with making sure you're reasonably hydrated during the day rather than all at once right before sleep, sets your joints up to gel less severely overnight in the first place. You're not eliminating the overnight process. That's normal and expected. You're simply narrowing the gap you have to close each morning. Give this a full month before you judge it. Most people notice a difference in how long the stiffness lingers within the first week or two, but the real shift, the one where you stop thinking about it at all because it's just handled, tends to show up around that 4-week mark. And there you have it. Your joints just got a whole lot smarter than they were 5 minutes ago. You now know why you wake up feeling like a rusty gate, and better yet, you know exactly how to oil those hinges before your feet even hit the floor. No pills, no gadgets, no waiting around for getting older to magically stop happening. Just 90 seconds and the right order of moves. So here's your homework. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, before you even think about standing up, run through this sequence and see how different you feel walking to the kitchen. If it works even half as well for you as it does for the people who've been doing this for weeks, you're gonna want to tell someone about it. So go ahead, send this to the person in your life who groans every time they stand up from the couch. They'll either thank you or steal your secret. Either way, you win. And before you go, I want to know which part of this surprised you the most. Was it finding out your fascia literally turns to gel overnight, or that your joints work like a little sponge that needs squeezing to stay lubricated? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely read every single one. Don't forget to like and subscribe so we see each other again. I'll see you in the next one.